What disappoints us in real life, we seek in fiction. One of my fields for my dissertation is in masculinity studies, and I think that the way that Heated Rivalry portrays masculinity, specifically the fantasy of tender and vulnerable masculinity, is a huge reason it has become such a cultural phenomenon. It's not only that the show exists, but it's the cultural response to it. This show is an adaptation of a romance novel, which as a genre is at its core about fantasy, romantic and sexual fantasy. And when we see these illustrations of fantasy getting huge cultural traction, that's a sort of litmus test that shows us what desires that we, the audience, hold en masse that are consistently unmet. Scholars have defined the culturally dominant form of masculinity. This is the type of masculinity that holds power under patriarchy. And it is one that defines itself by the subjugation of women and queer people, and it prizes traits like aggression, emotional suppression, and heterosexuality. And we are in an era where this kind of masculinity is being exposed for the prison and the poison that it is. More and more straight women are opting out of dating. There is the infamous male loneliness epidemic. We are being exposed to the consequences of how these patriarchal systems indoctrinate young men in ways that set them up to perform poorly as partners and parents. And I don't think it's an accident that within this cultural context, Heated Rivalry is dominating streaming. It's also clear from the recent trend of criticizing the performative male. We are inherently suspicious of men who seem to be performing softness or vulnerability. And the key word here is perform. The suspicion is out of fear that this performance is inauthentic, intended to disarm the observer, that these men are performing vulnerability in order to gain access to women. As we've established, masculinity in this dominant framework is positioned in a way that subjugates women, and so fear and distrust of that, I think, is a logical response. And so I think that Heated Rivalry is really hitting in this particular cultural moment because it explores a masculinity that operates outside of the dominant framework of misogynist and homophobic patriarchy. In the relationship between Shane and Ilya, there are no women involved, and because it's a queer relationship, it also kind of destroys the homophobic nature of this framework. So for those of us that love men and are attracted to men, and yet who are fearful and exhausted by patriarchy, in Heated Rivalry we see these characters delving into intimacy and emotional vulnerability. Because their relationship is womanless and also private within the setting, there is no reason for us to be distrustful or suspicious about the ways in which they act out their masculinity, which includes tenderness, openness, vulnerability. These things that we, the audience, societally crave from men. So this story is an example of wish fulfillment for our own unmet desires.